Yep.
The April 25th, 2024 meeting is now called to order. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Brianne, will you do it?
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. The next item is agenda changes and adoption of agenda. Does the board have any recommended changes to tonight's agenda?
I do. I would like to make a motion to add item 6.1.6, Rick Eckert's resignation to the consent agenda.
Okay, we have adding 6.1.6, which will be adopting Rick Eckert's resignation. Okay, does the majority of, are there any other agenda changes? Okay, we don't need a roll call vote, but does the majority of the board agree to the recommended changes?
Yes.
Okay, I'm seeing that the majority of the board agrees, so we'll be adding item 6.1.6, which is accepting Rick Eckert's resignation. Okay, thank you. The next agenda item is school connections. The board would like to thank Miranda Smallwood, Kingston High School principal, and Cara Lentz, Suquamish Elementary School principal, for preparing and presenting Kingston High School and Suquamish Elementary School data. At this time, I would like to turn the meeting over to Rachel Davenport, Miranda Smallwood, and Cara Lentz to present the Kingston High School and Suquamish Elementary School data.
Thank you. Also with Miranda tonight is Assistant Principal Philip Mosley, also in charge and works very closely with our choice program.
All right, I'm going to practice before I get started on if I can make the clicker work functionally. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you so much for inviting us here tonight to share our School Connections presentation. As introduced, my name is Miranda Smallwood. I'm in my second year as principal at Kingston High School, and here tonight is Philip Mosley, who is joining us for his first year at Kingston High School as assistant principal and program administrator for Choice Academy. And we would like to open with appreciation for our school board, for our district administrators, for our school board student rep, for their guidance and support, and of course to our students, our families, and our community, without whose partnership we would not be as happy, joyful, and successful as a school. Our goals for this evening are to ensure our school board and community understand how the NKSD strategic plan is operationalized at the building level at Kingston High School, what data we are using to monitor our progress, and what action steps we are considering and or taking in response to continued challenges and celebrations of growth to ensure that we offer education and programs that lead to equitable student access and success, both in high school and post-secondary pursuits, in academics, social emotional wellness, and the behaviors that we believe will support them into adulthood and beyond. At the most basic level, our ultimate goal is that all students graduate ready for success in their post-secondary plans as they launch into college and career opportunities that they've been prepared for throughout their K-12 education. To do this, we believe that students should be proficient in reading, writing, math, science, and 21st century instructional technology skills, and be present and engaged at school with a sense of belonging, pride, and a culture of inclusion. The mission of Kingston High School has remained the same since our inception. I'm finding the mission and vision slide. I might have missed one. We could just pause there. Has remained the same since our inception in 2007, for students to have a rigorous education that challenges them to graduate to both college ready, while also being involved in and caring for their community. And if we can go to goal 4, please, that has the strategic plan goal. Thank you, Corey. I appreciate you. Now, the goal 4, strategic plan goal, and then target goals. There's like a key chart. There we are. Thank you. Thank you, teamwork. When we design and assess our goal of ensuring all students graduate ready for success in their post-secondary plans, we look to make sure our students are on track with earning their high school graduation credits, ensuring that we disaggregate data with an equity lens. In addition to passing all classes, we also work to ensure all students have access to advanced coursework that is often represented in our CTE and college-level dual credit courses. We know that some students enter Kingston High School as 9th graders, ready and prepared to succeed in 6 periods of rigorous coursework. We also know that some students have not had the same experiences and opportunities, but that they are just as capable to succeed when provided the right environment, resources, and support. The satellite data that we use to determine our progress are our on-time graduation rates, course completion data, and dual credit enrollment. Our on-time graduation rates have been steadily rising over the past 10 years. You'll notice a dip in the year that we returned from remote learning, data consistent with high schools across our state and our nation. We are proud to see an 8% rise in our graduation rate last year from that data point and expect that this spring, our on-time graduation rate will be close to 95%. When we disaggregate our graduation data, When we disaggregate our graduation data for our students who identify as Hispanic, Native American, and receiving special services, we see that overall 4-year grad rates have increased over 3% over the last 4 years. Special education, 4-year grad rates have increased almost 6% over the past 4 years. Hispanic graduation rates have dropped almost 6% over the last 4 years. This visual of our on-time and 5th-year graduation data demonstrates that over the past 5 years, we are close to reaching and on track to surpassing our pre-pandemic graduation rates within the next 3 years. You can also see that within 1 to 2 years after graduation, we support on average, an additional 6% of our non-graduating students in earning their diplomas, preventing them from dropping out of high school. In order to make progress toward our goals, KHS commits to next steps that include instructional practices, equitable policy implementation, and data-based interventions that prioritize individualized student support. In taking these steps, we expect to see an increase of our on-time graduation rates to hit at least 96%, with at least a 10% increase for our students in historically marginalized populations, including our Hispanic and Native American students, as well as students receiving special education services. The course completion rates of our 9th grade students are a strong predictor of on-time graduation rates. You can see that there was a drastic drop in 9th grade on-track data after our return from remote learning. While the overall percentage of 9th graders on track for last school year was 59.1%, when reviewing our panorama data, we see that 66% of our 9th grade students were passing all their courses at the end of 2nd semester last school year, and 76% of our 9th grade students passed all of their courses first semester of this school year. This indicates that student performance and success is increasing, leading us to predict an upward trajectory of our state-level 9th grade on-track data for this school year and beyond. When we review the course-specific data for our 9th grade cohort at the end of last school year, so this is data from spring 23, we see that the most success of our 9th grade students in ELA and social studies, with 81% and 77% passing respectively. The most challenges for our 9th grade students are in math and science, with 69% and 70% passing respectively. When reviewing the same data for the current 9th grade cohort this school year, we see continued strength for our 9th grade students in ELA with 83% passing, and consistent performance of 65 to 67% course passing for social studies, math, and science. In addition to passing all of their courses, we strive to encourage and support enrollment of all students in our CTE and advanced placement dual credit courses. Over the course of the last 3 years, our student enrollment in these programs has increased 7.5%. We are continuing to add and adapt new programs in response to student voice and community partnerships, and look forward to this number rising steadily in the next 2 to 4 years. For the next school year, this is a list of courses that have been offered to our students during the registration process. And we also have several potential dual credit college and high school offerings that are currently in the works for next school year and or beyond. As part of our action steps to increase the percentage of our 9th grade students on track to graduate and close the variance in success rates for our historically marginalized students, KHS staff are prioritizing the creation of a comprehensive MTSS plan, or multi-tiered systems of support, and student scheduling to support team-based decision-making models. We believe that by holding consistent to these action items, we will see an 80% success rate of our 9th grade students on track in their coursework, and at least 75% of our student body participating in CTE dual credit, advanced placement, and college and high school coursework. As we shared in our introduction, our primary goal is to ensure students graduate ready for success in their post-secondary plans as they launch into college and career opportunities that they've been prepared for throughout their K-12 education. And that to do this, students must be proficient in reading, writing, math, science, and 21st century technology skills. Our second goal this evening is to share our current progress in our state assessment scores in light of that expectation. The data that we use to track these goals include our state testing scores, as well as student, staff, and family perceptual data for blended learning preparedness. When comparing our spring 2022 data to this past spring of 2023, we see that our ELA scores have increased 7%, math scores have increased by 5.1%, and our science scores have increased by 8.8%. These overall increases are motivating and promising, speaking to much of the commitment of our students and families, as well as our staff collaboration within the PLC structures of curriculum review and planning and student data assessment. While reviewing our overall progress and celebrations in this coursework, we are also committed to reviewing our disaggregated data by racial demographics and special populations. This visual shows a targeted disaggregation based on racial and cultural identities, as well as special populations of students receiving special services and students who are temporarily living in poverty. These are demographics that our data would suggest we are not serving commensurate with their needs. Our data shows that we've had steady success of increased proficiency for each student demographic in our ELA and science programs, and a consistent drop in our math proficiency rates over the course of the last 2 years. For our state testing this April and May, we've also made some adjustments to our allocated testing structure and schedule, and our planning and in the midst of some intentional climate and culture work during our state testing season. To help improve our testing culture, we started sharing information in March with our students and families in anticipation of our assessments to help everyone feel informed, prepared, and comfortable with the experience. We know that standardized assessments can cause anxiety and stress, and that this can often impact both attendance and performance. We want to make sure our students and families know that while the assessments are a critical and important measure of the health of our school programs and in determining graduation readiness for individual students, they are only one measure, not the ultimate measure of our students' strengths. In addition to the short-term focus on testing climate and culture and the in-the-day and after-school academic tutoring and support adjustments that we've made, we're also embedding WICR, which stands for Writing, Inquiry, Collaboration, Organization, and Reading strategies within the AVID framework, strategic academic interventions into our MTSS plan under our Tier 1 or our universal practice. By following these action steps, we expect to see increases of 10 to 20% in proficiency scores between this spring and spring of 2025. As we shift into a look at our blended learning preparedness data, you'll see teacher perception data from last fall, spring, increases from 13 to 26%. According to our students this fall who took this survey, our greatest strengths in regard to blended learning are to use technology to help students take ownership and to personalize their learning, and our greatest struggles are to use technology to tap into imagination and explore creativity and to think critically and solve real-world problems. According to our staff this fall who took this survey, our greatest strengths are to use instructional technology to support collaboration and to help students take ownership of their learning, which is also what students shared. Our greatest struggles are to use instructional technology to tap into imagination and explore creativity and to communicate with different people in different ways, which is also what our students shared. There's some alignment there between our student and staff perception data. We believe that continued focus on the identified strength of using technology to support collaboration, combined with a focus on intentional collaborative strategies in the AVID framework, will help us grow in these challenging areas and see an increase in creativity and exploration using defined protocols and processes. In our work towards seeing increased staff and student responses to our blended learning proficiencies, in the spring of 2025, we are committed to increase PD and job-embedded modeling of those targeted skills, tools, and strategies. Many of our goals and strategies to support increased proficiency levels for students in ELA, math, and science rely on our implementation of the AVID framework. We're working to define what this means for our staff in the context of our MTSS blueprints and our playbook, and look forward to continued professional development and progress as a staff to understand and commit to a collective set of instructional strategies, executive functioning, and note-taking skills in the AVID framework to increase both accessibility and rigor in our academic coursework. Our final goal area to review this evening is under NKSD strategic goal number 2. We believe that in order for our students to graduate prepared for success in their post-secondary college and career goals, they must demonstrate the behaviors and skills to pass their rigorous coursework and be proficient in ELA, math, and science standards. Reaching those goals requires strong relationships and mutual trust between and amongst our students, staff, and families. This last goal area speaks to our work on attendance, behavior, and skills beyond instructional technology that we're seeing as foundational to the 21st century educational, cultural, and marketplace experience, and a positive climate and culture that demonstrates a sense of belonging, pride, and inclusion. Our data sources for tracking these measures include our attendance data, climate and culture survey data, and our student SEL ratings, both their self-reports and teacher perception. While our fall attendance rates this school year were lower than the same time period the year prior, we haven't seen a commensurate drop between winter and fall. At an average rate of almost 87% regular attendance this winter, we're concerned about our students who are not attending regularly. At the same time, many of our students are showing up regularly. 70% of our students have attended 90% or more of school days this year. 22% have attended between 80 to 90%, and 8% have attended less than 80. The data presented here also shows a correlation between critical and at-risk attendance, which are selected in this marker, and critical and at-risk academic performance. We know that low attendance and academic progress are connected. As a result of our concern for the climate and culture of our school, individual student wellness, and the correlation between student success and regular attendance, our goal is to reduce non-illness related student absences to support all students attending 90% or more of our scheduled school days. Our attendance team will continue to monitor data, partner with students and families to identify barriers, and provide supports available to help our students meet their individualized goals. This past fall, our students, families, and staff took a school climate and culture survey. According to our students, Our strengths at Kingston High School include having fair rules for students and pleasant physical spaces. Our challenges include the behavior of other students having a negative impact on learning. When asked if they felt a sense of belonging at school, most students reported somewhat, with the smallest percentage of students reporting not at all at 13% or a little bit at 15%. To be clear, our goal is for no student to report that they don't feel like they belong at all or only a little bit or somewhat. While our families' responses demonstrated a drop from the spring prior to their perception of respectful relationships between students and staff, their fall responses were the most favorable compared to student and staff. We also saw an increase in positive responses from families regarding their assessment of a school environment that helps their child learn. We predict that this data will show market growth this spring as well, following our efforts at increased partnership, communication, structures, and supports for students and staff. And for all of our students and families who are here tonight, in person or on Zoom, if you haven't done your survey yet, here's your plus. We really rely on this data. Action steps taken that we expect will contribute to this growth include increased implementation of the AVID and character-strong curriculums and frameworks that we use. Following these steps, we expect to see increased teacher efficacy following meaningful PD and culture-building activities, increased percentage of student engagement in daily lessons, and increased student sense of belonging, connection, and enthusiasm. In addition to our climate and culture surveys, our advisory teachers complete a teacher perception survey for each student in their advisory class 3 times a year. This data is then tabulated with students' self-reported responses to wellness questions to determine the strengths and challenges of our unique student body at KHS. According to this data, we've seen a marked increase in student strengths in all areas measured by these surveys. Our greatest growth has been demonstrated in both engagement and self-efficacy, and our greatest overall strength noted in emotional regulation and social awareness. Students believe that our greatest strengths are in self-management, and our greatest challenges are in self-efficacy and challenging feelings. This data, combined with the previous teacher perception data of our biggest growth, opportunity, and social perspective taking, supports the direction of our staff, student, and family voice surveys that we've been sharing to identify what our top 3 to 5 behavior expectations we need to explicitly define, support, and celebrate at Kingston High School. And where we currently have landed on those surveys is explicitly teaching and celebrating perseverance, integrity, and empathy, or PIE. So please get ready to be invited to some staff, student, and family time nights coming fall. In order to decrease and ultimately eliminate our number of students who self-report and or have staff report no or some strengths for SEL and well-being, we'll increase our use of the data dashboards, support our KHS care team and advisory teachers in identifying students in need of additional intentional supports in the form of small group or individualized services. We'll also use the character-strong curriculum to increase our Tier 1 or universal practices to create a climate and culture that supports all of our students to be their best selves, ready to act as the informed citizens that we know that they are, and be empowered to care for their community and beyond. Thank you so much again for inviting us to present our data. I know it's a lot of information, and happy to have Phil take all of your questions. Or no. And happy to follow up on any questions too, because I know there's a lot of information.
Any questions?
Yeah, I had a question. So what are the 5 most popular electives that the kids choose at Kingston?
So, current course registration, would tell you that the most popular electives are leadership, guitar, team sports, fitness and walking, I'm forgetting the 5th one off the top of my head. What's that? Yeah.
Do the kids have select electives, even if their grades aren't at proficiency?
Yes, yes. Yeah, we offer the same courses to all of our students and, encourage, robust options for all students.
I guess too, is choice included in this, or will that be a separate presentation, or how does that work? I didn't know if you had any comments you wanted to make specific to.
The data in this presentation is specific for Kingston High School, but we would be happy to work and, compile some Choice Academy data.
I would say that the biggest difference between Choice and Kingston High School is that we have a much stronger emphasis on credit recovery with our students, and so that's a really big focus with our students.
I would love to see the data on that focus, because it is a really wonderful focus to have.
And I'll also share that we've loved, getting to co-locate with Choice Academy this year, been a positive experience, and I think such a benefit for Kingston High School and our community and Choice Academy, and more and more of our Choice Academy students are becoming shared students with Kingston High School, so some of the data is for our Choice students, because, they're taking classes at both Choice Academy and Kingston High School, which is great.
And both core academic and elective classes they're crossing over and doing. The number of students that attend Choice Academy, it'd be very easily to identify which students would show up in a presentation such as this, and that type of information is suppressed to protect the privacy of those students.
If that's wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Any good things we wanted to make sure we know. So thank you so much for that.
And I want to thank you both for being here, for the work. Great presentation, and please pass on a big thank you to your staff for all the hard work they do. I just had one question. I don't know what, but when you were talking about all the percentage of students who had passed ninth grade over time, and that percentage, then I think you mentioned you were comparing that to Panorama, and I think I got a little confused there.
Sure, and I didn't put the data visuals. So what's in the presentation, you'll see, is what ultimately gets reported to the state. And so, that information can go through some different processes when they finalize what the Washington State Report Card, Kingston High School ninth grade on-track rate is. The statistics I was referencing it's a bit more raw. The data's a bit more raw through Panorama, and then hasn't gone through the state, process. Yeah.
But you would think that that percentage is higher than what we're seeing here?
Yeah, what I'm seeing in Panorama, I'm predicting, because the state data is always, delayed, in terms of the reporting, and so I'm using the current data to predict, I think, of what we expect to see once those reports get finalized.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Please hold me accountable to it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and, first, thank you, excellent presentation. Appreciate all the data and transparency, more importantly. So going through it, there were two things that kind of jumped out to me. The first was, looking at structural technology perception data, the percent favorable for students was 38%. I didn't get a chance to go and look at that versus other schools, but it kind of jumped out to me, like, I'm sure you might not have this, already, but any kind of dive into that, why you think?
Of their comfort with the blended learning?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have to do a deep dive into some of the specific questions that are asked in there, but anecdotally, we'll often hear from our students, that, sometimes there's so much technology, which is really positive, and there's so much of work to do, and collaborate with it, but, sometimes they also want to take a break, from their technology. So I would want to dig into the questions to see if, there's some information speaking to just that anecdotal experience that we hear from students.
No one might have.
Of time and place.
There was that.
Sometimes,
like class after class, using my computer, it's a little too much. I like when there's I don't know, just like note-taking on paper or having a discussion, like, mixing that in with
Yeah.
is nice.
And that being said, our staff are, so appreciative of the space that our school is in, and so we often are, having teachers and classes be able to go outside and, we have a lot of outdoor classroom spaces, that they're able to use and, get outside.
Thank you. And then the second thing, the other one that kind of jumped out to me, not too much of a surprise, but just highlighted, after school, how much does the behavior of other students hurt or help your learning? It's 15%. I mean, I think we've seen that through other presentations at other schools. So I was wondering if, are you currently, conducting focus groups with students, or do you have a plan to do that in the future?
Yeah, we are, it needs to be tended to. The data is really clear, both from staff, families, students, that, while there was the student marker of that there are, the strength of having fair rules at the school, there also is pretty stark data about the behavior pieces. And so we've been, we really believe in shared decision-making at Kingston High School, and so we've been going through an iterative process this year with our staff, and then multiple student and family feedback surveys to get to that place where we even landed on the perseverance, integrity, empathy, to have conversations about when we say that the behavior of others is hurting our learning, what does that look like, in our community, and at Kingston High School, and why do we need to explicitly teach those things? And then also, we see and hear about personal electronics and devices, and so we're also, coupled with that, having conversations about cell phone policies and that distracting nature can really impact learning, both devices in the classroom when they're not being used appropriately, and the social media that's coupled with it, and the impacts of that on our students in the classroom. So we're having some pretty comprehensive and hard conversations about what are going to be our common agreements.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think the personal devices piece of it, that's interesting, is one I hadn't thought about. I think that will continue to be a discussion in the future. So, not to totally put the emphasis on teachers and have them responsible, but somehow to manage that.
Yeah, it's all of us.
Yeah. But, no, excellent comments. Thank you. I appreciate you continuing to focus on this.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miranda.
Yes, thank you very much.
Great presentation. Laura, are you?
I am ready.
All right.
All right. Again, I am Cara Lance, very, very proud principal of Suquamish Elementary. This is my third year, and I am going to try and consolidate over 140 days, just less than 20 minutes.
I thought you were going to say 140 slides.
Well, it's quite a few, so I know you've seen those slides, and so I will be kind of skipping over some of them, but keep highlighting some of the great things that are happening in our building. Move on to the next. So our first goal focuses on our youngest learners, our kinders, first and second graders. Our building creates focus goals for both student growth and achievement as a metric of improvement within each goal of the strategic plan. This provides a targeted focus on student achievement results when implementing action steps related to our school improvement plan. And I hope to highlight some of those improvements that we are seeing this year. Our mid-year benchmark data was already showing growth in our early year grades, but not as much as we had hoped for. We took an opportunity to dive deeper into each grade level data and looked for specific trends or areas that needed more specific interventions. By utilizing our district and building TOSAs to refocus interventions during WIN and class small groups, with targeted PDSA cycles to ensure that what was being done was having an impact on student achievement. And in those PDF cycles, I'm getting reports regularly of the amazing growth, particularly our kindergarten group is showing. So we are really optimistic for our spring data that will be coming up. While we saw more growth in math, we have set goals that demand we get stronger results, so we're making adjustments particularly to our Tier 1 instruction, such as a small group instruction during class time and not just during win time. And go on to the next slide. I've highlighted on here our effective use of student data. Really wanted to bring your attention to this, as each PLC had the opportunity to meet with our building and district TOSAs to create targeted interventions for our students, not quite at standard, and enrichment for students who are meeting standards, and the opportunity to dive deeper into grade level standards. We regularly progress monitor our students, not at standard yet, every 2 to 3 weeks, and we are seeing continuous improvement. We believe a lot of learning will be demonstrated through assessments as we apply these strategies at the PLC level over the next 6 weeks and are eager to get our results. Not only are we using PLC data, but we're incorporating student data as well. And our next slide is a visual of some of those things that how we're tracking data. The first picture is a picture of a second grade teacher's focus folder after a mid-year benchmark. At the beginning of beginning of the year, every student is placed on a sticky note and placed under a group according to their beginning of the year assessment. Each group has specific skills recommended to focus on based on student need. As a student masters those skills, those sticky notes are moved across the folder into the next area. The levels on the far left are those who are still below grade level, they are red, and the next are those students who are just below grade level, they would have been yellow. And the third column are students at grade level with green, and fourth would be blue, those students who have skills they need to be successful at their grade level. As you can see in this picture, most of the students are moving across the folder. And as you can see, a lot of those yellows that were on the left side are now reading at grade level or showing results of a second grader. One of the things we do know, our reds who are still on the left side are still growing. They might still show, but their gap they have to close is quite a bit, so we know they're growing. The picture on the top is a student's graph of their growth. I'm seeing this in more and more of my classrooms, especially our younger grades, and the impact teachers are reporting that students monitoring their own growth has been huge. And then the middle one is another data sheet that our teacher uses when discussing with their students their growth. Climate and culture surveys through Panorama have been used to collect data for our second set of goals. Attendance is something we've been addressing all year, and we are beginning to see some small improvements as we go through the year. The next graph, I'm kind of excited to have found, it's a new one to me, but Panorama gives us a different look at what our daily trends are for our attendance. Beginning in the end of December, January, we started doing some recognizing of students who are at school, not perfect attendance, but maybe have only missed 2 or less days. And that is when you start seeing an upward trend. As we start recognizing these kids publicly during our TBIS assemblies, I need to find an auctioneer that will help me read through these lists really quick because there's getting more and more kids standing up every day, and that's pretty exciting. We do know there are some dips and peaks and valleys that we need to spend more time in and really analyzing what was going on those days. I can tell you the day October with the high green would have been Halloween. It's amazing the attendance that happens on that day. So, but it gives us evidence of we need some more things, more fun in school. Our climate data is something we continue to dive into and look specifically at the questions that are being asked, especially in the areas we see marked decrease. Between spring 2023 and fall of 2023, our largest decrease was in the area of school learning strategies. When I looked closer, I found that the biggest change was in our 3rd grade. After brainstorming and talking with staff, I found out that on the day that a 3rd grade class took this assessment, there had been a major event in a class prior to taking this, and they found their class scores had gone down. So we know when we're looking at data for kids who are just starting this process, it takes time to help them learn and reflect, and so we're optimistic to see growth happening with our next results. We also did a deeper dive into our staff data regarding school climate, as we were seeing a decline in our school data, and it was concerning to our building leadership team. And so, if we go to the next, one more. So we added a mid-year site-based survey to monitor the impact that some of the things we did with our staff. We took school climate. There are 22 questions that fall into that area, or 22 I had just identified where we saw that decrease, and we resurveyed staff after we did some interventions as far as hearing, you know, what is it they think our building leadership thought was impacting it. And when we re-gave the survey, or not re-gave it, we did progress monitoring. You can see on the next slide that out of the 22 areas, 4 areas were still areas of concern. And we, our building leadership has hypothesized that these 4 areas to target are based around curriculum. And in order to give access and support to our very busy staff, we've been utilizing release time, where subs are brought in to provide teachers time to learn, think, discuss, practice, and come away with specific strategies to implement. They have had time with building and district TOSAs, as well as representatives from CKLA and iReady. I've utilized resources carefully and strategically to support this need. This is an example of how our resources are being used in our building to support our teachers. Again, as in with Goal 1, we created focus goals for Goal 3 for student growth as a metric of improvement within each goal of the strategic plan, providing targeted focus on students. This area, grades 3 through 5, resulting when we implement, student achievement results when implementing action steps related to our school improvement plan. And one more. For our 3rd through 5th grade, our reading dibbles growth was positive, yet not as much as we had expected. Diving deeper into some of the scores in the red, we noticed that students might have received below standard score. Many scores were approaching that just below standard and edging their way into what I call orange. The level where we mix yellow and red together, we get orange, right? I think. Again, this data is from January, and we are anticipating more measured growth and achievement by the time we assess again in late May. In the meantime, teachers and specialists are monitoring progress of groups of students to get information we need to adjust practices. Each grade level also has created additional goals for oral reading fluency, and in that area we have seen significant growth from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year. For our 3rd through 5th grade iReady math data, you'll notice that this information is based on beginning of the year data, benchmark data, and data that we have just collected since we've returned from spring break. All 3 grades have had time to dive deeper into the results with the consultant from iReady last Thursday, and they set up some strategic interventions that each grade level could focus on before the upcoming SBAs in late May. I was so impressed with the work these groups did. Then to see them actually implement this work the Monday after we discussed it, and seeing students making targeted growth for areas of concern. I'll go back one more comment on that assessment, because we gave it so early. I had a parent tell me that their 4th grader was not quite sure that score reflected what they were capable of, because they just weren't feeling good that day and they hoped they could take it again. So again, I thought it was a great reflection on how our students are taking these assessments seriously. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Diving in both feet into 2 new curriculums in 2 years has been a major undertaking for our staff, but I feel I have to brag about how the Suquamish team is utilizing these curriculums and have come away from each training we've had talking about new resources they've discovered or the research they've done on their own to utilize this curriculum to work at meeting the essential standards for their grade level. last slide, Avid is alive and well. This is from a presentation our Avid team did about engaging strategies. And to take this deeper, I currently have been at a PBIS conference, and so we are going to take this information and we're going to take a look at how do these strategies also engage students for recall, so how they can communicate it. So we continue to use the information we've had all year and grow it as we practice. Growth continues to happen at Suquamish. Prep work for our new gym is underway. We've had to make some changes to our traffic patterns, and our school community and school have embraced it positively and understanding why change has to happen. Staff continues to seek to find ways to best meet the needs of all students by utilizing the resources we have within our building, district, and our community. I believe that the look of pride on this little guy's face kind of summarized how our students are feeling. This was after he received an award at PBIS, and just that amount of pride our kids are taking in being recognized publicly, privately, and personally means a lot to all of us. And so we are seeing some great things happening in Suquamish.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I was just wondering, how are we doing with fifth grade math? Are they going to be more of them at grade level headed into middle school?
That's our hope. I mean, with our meeting we had this last week, with the iReady consultant, we were able to find some specific strategies to help those students. We have quite a few that are at that bubble stage. So how can we get them to show what they know? And so we felt like this might not actually reflect where they're at, so we have to help them show what they know.
Nope, I don't have any specific questions. I just want to thank you and your staff for, again, the great work, this great presentation, and just comment, I really appreciate, kind of diving into the data, and I think it's really important, you know, as we know when we're testing, that isn't always the whole picture. And so really when you dive in, I think it's very insightful, and you are able to highlight or see things, and then, you know, you form a plan and a strategy. So I very much appreciated going through this and seeing that that's what, you know, you could see that in your presentation. And so, yeah, thank you for that.
And I've talked to staff a lot about this data that we've seen. We know it's just scraping the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more underneath. And so when we take time to really look at what are the specific things being measured or being asked on the panorama, we get a lot more information.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just a second, great presentation, thank you. And I want to highlight, I really like the idea of having the students monitor their growth. Kind of ties into Alex, where they're going to be tracking their own progress in secondary. So I hope you definitely continue that. And I really want to comment on the attendance data. I don't think I've seen a school with an upward trend throughout the year of attendance data. I mean, it's just a natural decline. So.
And I give a lot of credit to my staff for making those personal calls home. They really have those relationships with kids that the kids want to be there.
Yeah, that's great. So please pass that thanks along to them. I mean, I think we all know that they have to be there to learn.
Yeah.
So having an upward trend is awesome. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Miranda and Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comment. We have 2 individuals signed up for public comment in person, and then we'll do a second session where we have 1 more person signed up. The North Kitsap School District Board of Directors welcomes the public to this open public meeting. In accordance with board policy and state law, board meetings must be conducted in a civil, orderly, and business-like manner, which means we all must follow the same standards of civility during school board meetings. We value public comments. If you'd like to speak to potential items on the agenda, you can sign up to speak using the sign-up sheets that are located on the meeting agenda and on the school district website. Both virtual and in-person attendees may sign up for public comment. The board sets aside a maximum of 2 30-minute public comment periods per meeting. Speakers wishing to comment on agenda items will be prioritized in the first public comment period to allow for the board to hear comments prior to board action or consideration. Individual speakers will have 3 minutes for their comments. Speakers may not donate some or all of their time to another speaker, and the person who signed up to comment should be the same person who addresses the board. No speaker may speak more than once per meeting, even if there is time remaining. Though the board will not respond to statements, questions, or challenges made during the public comment period, the board may ask district staff to contact a speaker at a later time to follow up on issues raised during the public comment period. When it's your turn to speak, please approach the podium if you're in person. If you're commenting via Zoom, you'll be promoted to panelist on Zoom. You must then turn on your video and microphone to make public comments. Finally, please remember that your words have impact. We value our community's feedback, and we welcome your comments. Thank you. So the first public speaker will be in person, and that is Jeffrey Zeiger.
Screens to go. Why isn't school fun, Grandpa? Asked my 8-year-old grandson. What he feels is information from his heart, an organ a machine doesn't have. Artificial intelligence, or machine learning, expands rapidly in the world. A fighter jet successfully completed in mock combat operated only by AI. A business built to create a sellable version of AI fired 90% of its employees once up and running. How do we prepare our children for the world of AI? Perhaps we don't have to. As children, like my grandson, come to school learning in ways that AI cannot. HeartMath, a research group, demonstrated how our hearts inform our brains before and after perception. The heart communicates through feeling. Children demonstrate this by being drawn towards what feels good and by their abundant energy. Play feels good, and through free play, children learn an abundance of social skills, including emotional self-control. Without that learning, playing stops. Curiosity and interests, which have a feel-good backing, move children to learn to read, to focus on subjects of their own choice, and in their own time. Most adults think school is the work of children, as it was for them, all of us. Yet research by people like Peter Gray, Maria Montessori, and John Holt clearly point out play is the work of children. Pushing our work attitude onto children, we've taken away their free play, and the children and our culture pay the price for it. Anxiety and depression in our youth are at an all-time high. How many unhappy children coming to school and doing harm will it take to listen to the learning research? Of course, the family generates the children's initial experiences in life. However, children spend a great deal of time in school where they could be healing through play or not. When children play, they feel good. When people feel good, they do good. The curriculums we think children must learn stem from a time that no longer exists. AI makes that even more apparent. With the presence of AI in our life, human learning, the heart-based kind children do, that adults need sensitivity classes or tragedy to rekindle, is needed now. The democratic school model allows for self-guided learning, ownership of learning itself by the learner, participating in a democracy, and most importantly, letting learners be guided by their hearts. All of this meets some of the basic Washington education law. The district is willing to pay money to study buildings. Why not consider study and application of the abundant research on learning? I'm almost done. Instead of doing what we've always done because that's how we've always done it. In Peter Gray's words, let the children be free to learn, and they will guide the way in how to prepare for the expanding world of AI.
The next speaker is also in person, Scott Hendon. Okay, I'm not seeing Scott. Last call. All right, thank you. So we will move on to the next agenda item is board reports. board comments. Does any board member have a comment they would like to share with the rest of the board?
I do. So the Vinland PTA has sponsored a STEM day to support, with support from Pacific Science Center. So I really enjoyed working with those kids at so many different levels as they learned all about blood and guts. And our state representatives held a town hall meeting at Olympic High School here in Paulsville. It was very well attended, and I was excited to hear that our representative, Greg Nance, is not only on the education board, but he's beginning to really understand the frustrations and the struggles that we're dealing with financially. And I would encourage everyone to support and encourage him as a new representative, because he really wants to help out.
I'll just share, yesterday I had the, privilege of attending the Festival of Arts, which, at the Kingston Middle School, which was just fabulous. I know several people in this room were there, and, I mean, just to see the creativity of our students, and at all ages and all different platforms. And then there was the music, from all different schools, and it was just wonderful, and it was a true celebration. So, yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone. I know that was a lot of work and time that went into planning that, but it was a huge success, and the parking lot was full. Like, it was packed.
Okay, thank you. The next agenda item is board reports. Does any board member have a report to share in regards to their assigned liaison position?
So I've attended school visits with, Tulsa Elementary, Vinland Elementary, and was able to attend the multicultural, festival at Kingston High School, as well as the art festival last night, which was, like you said, really well attended and just awesome. I also want to, take the moment to, really thank and, our volunteers, being, I believe, Volunteer Week, that have been a part of our school district for so long, and that we really rely on our volunteers to really, help our kids through all kinds of different learning aspects. And I was able to also, last night at the art festival, a volunteer that I'm kind of partial to. I want to recognize, my kids got to experience, Jeffrey Verigi and his artwork that he did with kids in schools. And I know he will be so missed, and I was able to get with his mom last night and have a moment with her, so that was really nice. But I know all volunteers really impact our students in such a positive way. He just made me think of that, because my kids really always enjoyed the time that he volunteered at our schools. So he'll be so missed, and also just all the wonderful work that volunteers do that may not be seen, it carries with them. My kids remember those days with I know you volunteer in the arts programs, and it's just really awesome that people donate their time like that. So to all district volunteers, I just really thank you for the time you give to our kids.
Yeah, and I represent at the city council, and there's something that I think the public would want to know, is that the city council is working on tournament-level soccer fields in North Kitsap, because if we could bring back Viking Cup back to Paulsbo, it was the #1 financial driver for our area. And we haven't had it for a few years, so that'd be pretty exciting.
And I'll just share, from KCAC, the meeting on April 10th, just a quick update. There is a transportation committee that's part of KCAC, and they're working on submitting a transportation improvement plan projects to Kitsap Public Works. Their two top priorities are around Barber Cutoff and Parcel, which we know that intersection, which is very troubling, as well as the Wolfley, the ingress egress, which, I mean, this has been, something that we have talked about for years. And Commissioner, Rolfes was there, and she gave some really good insight. I think because those are on state highways, it's very tricky to use county funds, to get them involved as part of the solution. But she did say make some recommendations and said, let's just figure out how we can work on this together. And I think, I mean, she's very involved. She wants to meet again. This will be part of the next, in the KCAC meeting in May to finalize that plan that will go to Kitsap Public Works. But, I think, I mean, it's just good. We need to know how to utilize, how to get money for these projects and for sidewalks and things around our schools. And then I also just wanted to do a quick plug, for the Bike Fest that the Kiwanis are hosting on Sunday at Kingston High School. If you have not been, or for anyone listening, it's an awesome event for, I mean, everyone, even adults, but you can get your bike helmet fitted. They're doing drawings for free bikes. They're gonna be giving away bikes. I mean, it's a wonderful event from 1 to 4 on Sunday. And you can bring your bike. They're gonna have, obstacle courses, and, I mean, it's all sorts of great things. But yeah, it'd be fun if anybody wants to go in for winning a raffle for winning a drawing for a free bike. And then also just another plug, the chamber, scholarships for seniors in our district, that application is open right now. So it's, you can go to the website, all the information is there, but it closes on April 30th. So I would just encourage any of our graduating seniors to go and, all the information's there that you need to apply. But there's money there, and I, would love to see more kids applying, so.
And then, for WIA, first, thank you, Craig, for continuing to forward me information. So there was, what he forwarded me, and I already heard that there's significant rule changes at a national level for high school wrestling, to really bring more into line with, college wrestling. Very, partial to, high school wrestling with 2 very strong, programs, here, North Kitsap continues to win the Olympic League, and, Kingston High School is continuing to grow their program. So, looking forward to those, rule changes, and, we'll be here, next year before we know it. And that is it. So next item is superintendent report. Rachel Denver, would you please provide your comments to the board?
Yes, we've had a very important month with a lot of recognition. So yes, volunteer recognition week, we couldn't do it without our volunteers. Student leadership week, so thank you for being here, Noah, and I know Alari wanted to be here, and she will be back at next meeting, but thank you for being here and what you do in your schools along with everyone else in the ASB. Also, National Bus Driver Appreciation Day was this week, and Administrative Professionals Day was also this week. So Corey Henry is here, and she is one of the best that I've worked with. So thank you to Corey. And then in my prior role with working in HR with Liz as our administrative professional there. Again, April's the month of the military child, and we serve a very large military population. And it's a time where we can recognize and celebrate their courage and perseverance in being members of their family, or oftentimes either deployed and helping to keep our country safe. The past few weeks, I've been able to attend the cultural fair at Kingston High School. It was an amazing event. Kingston Middle School yesterday with the Festival of the Arts. This last Saturday, I attended the STEM robotics competition at Olympic High School. And we had, North Kitsap School District had the most teams there. Kingston Middle School had great representation from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teams, as well as our elementary representation from Pearson. Some of the kids from the Pearson pollination plant party down in downtown Poulsbo were also a part of the robotics competition, so it was nice seeing them doing multiple things. After the robotics competition, I came back to North Kitsap High School where we talked about the Viking Cup, hosting that. We hosted a little Norway track meet, so we had teams from Vancouver all the way to Linden here, and that field was packed. I parked quite a bit away to get walk up there and be a part of that. So we had a lot of athletes attending and participating in that. Just a reminder, SBA testing is underway, so everyone listening, if we can, make sure our students are fed and ready to go and do that testing. It's going to go all the way through the end of May. And then we have a lot of end-of-year events coming up, so make sure you're checking your calendars and keeping keeping your eye open for any other end-of-year event. One other thing that we just, posted, and since everybody's putting plugs in, we are hosting a STEM camp, this summer. And Patrick will tell me if I'm wrong, in 7 minutes, we filled all of our spots and had 75 students on a wait list. So, we are back to the drawing table to figure out how we can staff and get more staff, hired for, STEM camp this summer, so that we can make sure any student that wants to be there can get there. So if we can get enough staff hired, then it's gonna be an amazing experience.
How many right now? I mean, how many did it?
What did we have? I don't know if it's still open and
How
getting
many
folks in,
slots
but
were
there is.
We filled the
Oh, and then there's 75
There's
on
more on the
the wait.
wait list, yes. Mhm.
I think it's a good example of the parents and the kids want to do something during the summer this academic. And I think we just need to look for creative ways to offer those.
Mhm. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is student representative reports. No, do you have any comments?
I do have a lot of comments.
All right.
That STEM summer camp, my brother's on the wait list.
Oh, okay.
I got there
Yep.
7 minutes too late.
Oh.
A couple weeks ago, Kingston hosted a multicultural celebration. I know some of you were there. And I just love seeing how after even 3 years of doing this, there were so many new booths and subcultures I could learn about, and how many different cultures there are in Kingston. Currently, the sophomores and juniors are in the middle of SBA testing with AP tests right around the corner. And to boost morale, ASB has been putting up a lot of encouraging posters, and then we started this new thing called Cookie Monday, where we just get a whole bunch of cookies from Safeway or wherever, and every student gets a cookie. And it was great. Yeah. And then I did want to add my comment onto the discussion we were having earlier about how much does the behavior of other students hurt or help your learning, with a little story from last year, where I gave a presentation, and standing in front of the class, there was not a single student who wasn't on their phone. And like, just giving that presentation, it was discouraging. But thinking about how teachers feel, doing that all day, every day, it's just like probably disheartening. And I'm glad there's going to be stricter rules coming soon, next year. And I hope it makes teaching more enjoyable and improves class engagement. And that's all for me.
Okay, all right, thank you, Noel. All right, the next item is the action portion of the agenda. First, we will do the 6.1 consent agenda, which will be items 6.1.1 through 6.1.6. The agenda. Motion is needed to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you, Bev. We need a second for the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Brianna. The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor of the motion?
Yeah.
Yes.
And yes. All opposed? There are no opposed. The motion passes with a vote of 4-0. Okay. The next item is 6.2, board action. First is resolution 040124, out of endorsement waivers. Motion is needed to discuss resolution 040124 out of endorsement waivers. Do I have a motion?
A motion?
Okay, we need a second. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Brianne. Resolution 040124 out of endorsement waivers. The motion has been made and seconded. Do we have any new comments for discussion?
I just think it's important that the teachers have a full-time contract, and they may not be able to teach math the whole time, so they have to have some classes out of their waiver, out of their endorsement.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
I just want to be clear on what that meant, so even that, I just want to make sure I was catching it correctly. So, that clarifies a little bit how you just said that. So, thank you.
It's just with our secondary schools in particular, they are 4 smaller secondary schools. And so instead of each year riffing down to where maybe if somebody is teaching math, you would have to reduce their contract by 0.2, 0.4, so that they could only teach math, because that's all the sections we have. We have this waiver to allow them to teach out of their endorsed area, keep them whole.
Okay, if there is no more discussion, I put the question to vote. All in favor of the motion?
Yes.
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 And yes, all opposed. The motion passes with a vote of 4 for and 0 against. Okay, the next item is 6.3, highly capable program. A motion is needed to discuss highly capable program plan. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Okay, thank you, Brianne.
I second.
Okay, thank you, Beth. So highly capable program plan, the motion has been made and seconded. Do we have any new comments for discussion?
I just wondered how we're going to, evaluate if this program is meeting the needs of those students besides, test scores and panorama. Is there anything else we're gonna be doing to check in with those families and kids?
Yeah, so students that, and I could let Carrie speak to it, if you want to come up and talk about student learning plans.
Hi, I'm Carrie Brumley, Director of Elementary Education. I'm also the highly capable coordinator for the district. I need to put these on because you're blurs. Oh, there you are. So the question is, how do we evaluate program effectiveness in addition to the data that we look at? So the most important piece that we have is the student learning plan. So when teachers meet in the fall and talk about the SLP with the parent and the child, they come back around to that at conferences. They should be checking in on progress and talking about how services are effective. So between those two, both the in-person check-in with families, great, and the data, we get a pretty comprehensive look. Oh.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right, if there is no more discussion, I have put the question to vote. All in favor of the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. All opposed? The motion passes with a vote of 4 for and 0 against. The next item is resolution 040224, Bridal Lake Elementary surplus. Motion is needed to discuss resolution 040224, Bridal Lake Elementary surplus. Do I have a motion?
I move that we discuss Bridal Lake.
Okay, thank you, Beth.
I'll second.
Thank you, Brianne. Okay, resolution 040224, Bridal Lake Elementary surplus. The motion has been made and seconded. Do we have any new comments for discussion?
I guess I'm not very familiar with the surplus process and what that looks like, but, and this might be jumping ahead a good bit, so I apologize, but, if we were to need the schools, again, I know it, talks about that a little bit in the resolution, but what does that process, I guess, look like, or this could be information for later, sure, but I just didn't know how easy is that to recommission as a utilized facility? Or what's that look like, I guess?
Yeah, it looks like coming back to the board. And so, sorry, Mike, I saw you stand up. And so, go ahead.
You want me?
Yeah, sure.
So the surplus process just allows us to enter into a lease with, or rent it to an outside agency. So the terms of what you're talking about actually would likely be in the lease agreement in terms of termination of the lease, how do we opt out, but certainly at any point in time, we have the ability to reconstitute the school and take it back if there's a reason for us to use it for our own district, whatever the reason might be. So it doesn't lock us into anything. It's just the legal process you have to go through in order to be able to have a lease like what we're talking about in this situation.
And then would that lease come before a management report, again, before we would, right, like
Yeah.
I assume there would be.
Correct, they'll,
Presented that way.
yeah,
Yep.
so this surplus, I think there's a couple things in here. One is that we're surplusing the part of the property, and that we're also notifying that we will publish in, the Kitsap Sun or our paper for 45 days that we're planning on entering into a lease. So it allows, honestly, anybody could come to us within that time frame and say, you know what, I think that you've surplus this, we could use it for this, and it allows you to kind of negotiate a lease. Now, I think we already talked about some of the idea around what we're doing, but that will all come back before the board before anything gets signed or anything gets agreed to.
Is the children's theater not going to be using it?
They're still in, we have a contract with them. We've had some conversation with them about, you know, longer term, what are we thinking, and is it a viable spot for them long term? But they have a contract through this year, and I think we expect that they'll be there next year also.
Okay, if there's no more discussion, I put the question to vote. All in favor of the motion?
Yes.
And yes. All opposed? The motion passes with a vote of 4 for and 0 against. Okay. A motion is needed to discuss the CTE purchase order. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Thank you, Brent.
Second.
Thank you, Beth. Motion has been made and seconded, which is the CTE purchase order. Do we have any new comments for discussion?
I just think the public would like to know a little more about those tables, because I didn't understand it. I looked into it because it was very expensive for a table.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
when you started explaining what it does, I went, wow, that'd be pretty
Yeah.
wonderful for kids to have that.
Yeah, so it is gonna be paid for out of, grants, and it matches the table that's already in existence at North Kitsap High School. It's a 3D rendering table, and so instead of bringing in actual cadavers or working on, humans on a table, it allows our kids to participate in, our new, healthcare class that we're putting in at Kingston High School, healthcare pathway, biology, anatomy. It allows for much more hands-on learning experience, without putting your hands on other humans or cadavers.
They can actually move body parts
Yes,
around, right?
yes.
All right, if there's no more discussion, I put the question to vote. All in favor of the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. All opposed? Motion passes with a vote of 4 for and 0 against. Okay, the next agenda item is manager reports. The manager reports will be turned over to President Davenport and staff to answer any questions the board has regarding materials provided.
First management reports, budget status report. It's our typical report every month. If there's any questions for Mike, we can have him come back to the podium.
No questions, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Our next management report, 7.2, is bright brick roof replacement. Are there questions on the bright brick roof replacement?
I think it's important that we do that, you know, so that we can rent it out and utilize the space, make some money from it.
Yeah, so I'm guessing this will all be determined like in the process that Mike just described, but I guess I was just curious, sorry if I missed it.
Yeah.
Is that funding already set aside for that maintenance, previously, or is that banking on kind of the upcoming leases, or how does that, work in?
It's a little bit of both. I'll Mike come up and sorry.
It is from the levy, the capital levy that was approved in '22. When I came here a year ago, there was a list of projects that we had committed to the budget from the capital levy. That was one of the projects, that has been there. And it really needed to happen regardless of whether we were leasing. If we were gonna continue to maintain that building and use it in any way, we needed to deal with the roof. And so, it's the right time to do it, but it was something that was there previously also.
I agree. I know I've driven by in the tarp, so I was a little concerned.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any more questions on that?
No.
Okay. City of, I guess I had you stay up there, Mike. City of Polso sidewalk easements. I heard somebody earlier was talking about their report on sidewalk, improvements, and, this is, if there's questions, this is one that City of Polso is doing, out in front of Knoll Road, moving towards, Polso Elementary School.
No, I'm gonna say,
I was thrilled to see they're gonna pay us.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And fix the sidewalk.
Yeah, there you go. I
Yeah.
mean,
know,
what is there not to like?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know this project's been in the works for a while, so it's good to see this, finally moving forward.
Thank you. And then our last management report, 7.4, we just had, the first facility advisory committee, meeting since reconstituting and opening it up for applications and having additional members join the already existing committee. So for that report, I was just there for about 15 minutes, did introductions. I got to meet, folks in person, learn who our new members on the committee were gonna be, and then I will let Mike take over because I stepped out of the room as a non-member of that committee.
So we did have our first meeting Tuesday, and I want to go back to kind of the process for how we created the committee. There was a pretty significant application process that went out to the community. I think we had, and the plan always was that existing members would maintain their membership if they chose to continue, and I think everyone did but one. And then we would have new membership as well to expand the committee, with the idea being that we'd want to add a parent and a staff member from each of the buildings within the district so that we're getting more direct feedback from parents and from staff at the building, in addition to a lot of the work that the committee will do. So that went out publicly. I think we had somewhere in the, or maybe 30 to 40 applicants for the positions. The website, the district's website now has the names of all of the members. We're waiting to hear back from all the alternates, because if you weren't made a member, you were given an opportunity to be an alternate, and then we'll have all the alternates' names up on the website also. So the names, the applications came in, and Rachel had it was a group of principals, and I think Reed, just internal people, but not the head leadership of the district, to choose and go through the process based upon criteria that had been published on the website to pick those members. So there were 3 groups of principals that scored, and the highest scoring were then slotted in if there were multiple for any one particular school, or if there was multiple staff members from a particular building. So that process went really well. We notified folks. We had our meeting. It was supposed to be from 6 to 7:30 on Tuesday, and it went till about 8:20 or thereabouts. We're working with Bassetti Architects. We have worked with Bassetti Architects firm to do a lot of the design work. They've done the design work at Fallsville Middle School. They've done the design work at Suquamish and Wolfley for the gyms that are upcoming. They did not have a significant role with the facilities committee previously. Typically, they're used to working in districts where they kind of work through the facility committee process, facilitate the committee. They will involve themselves and lead several meetings at each of the buildings in the district, to meet with staff, to make themselves available to community members that might come in and want to meet. So they outlined their process. We introduced them to the committee. They outlined their process of what our short-term, because there's clearly a long-term goal of what do we need to do facilities-wise in the long term in the district, but we also have a short term. The bond failed. Are we thinking about running another election, a bond, a levy? What are the thoughts around that? So there's a lot of they kind of outlined those conversations. We really didn't get into the levy versus bond. We will do that likely at the next meeting. But it was primarily answering questions. Honestly, this group of folks had a lot of questions, and a lot of questions about why we did what we did, talking about communication, talking about any number of things, which was great. I think in the beginning of the meeting, and Craig is a member, he would probably agree. I think there just were a lot of, I wouldn't say skeptic questions, but just kind of real pointed questions about things. But I think as the meeting went on and they heard the responses and how we were answering, I think they grew in comfort. And it ended with 3 groups of folks sitting at tables, just kind of free flow ideas, thoughts that will come back. The whole purpose is to kind of look at what are the principles around projects in the district. Bassetti met with the teaching and learning group. They met with the maintenance folks within the district. They met with the facilities committee around principles. There likely will be a work session, I think, scheduled with all of you, where you'd have the same opportunity to kind of look at, okay, these groups have had these ideas around the principles, and then components of what those, like safety and security, would be a principle. Everybody in a permanent classroom might be a principle. Just starting to build the information so that when we go out to the community and start having these conversations, it works. You know, we're trying to be real transparent and get good feedback on what the next steps will be. I think it's going to be a great process. It was a good meeting. We had people there, Wendy, Corey was there taking minutes. We'll post the minutes of the meeting as well. There will be community meetings also, just not just the meetings at the building, and a published schedule of all of those meetings also. So it was a great start Tuesday. It was long. The people were not, they were not in a hurry to get out of the room.
So Mike, did we wind up with representatives from every building?
I think that we have maybe 1 or 2 parent spots that might still be open, and maybe a building spot. But I know that all the secondary schools had representation. Maybe Gordon needs a parent. It could be. I mean, there were maybe a couple schools, but Wolfley was represented. Suquamish was represented. I think Paulswell Elementary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's good representation.
So are those spots still open for them?
Yeah, if we don't have
If they stepped up, they could join?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah, we would still welcome
Okay.
on those open spots. And then if people cycle out, or they feel like they can't continue, then the alternates, based upon the score that they had, will get asked to participate, and then they will be brought up to speed at that point when they come on board.
So when you said there's gonna be community meetings, you mean like a town hall where everybody, hey, you know, this is where we're at in the process, if you wanna
Correct.
come and hear about it, come?
Yes,
Oh, great.
absolutely.
That's good.
Yep. I think right now they've got that scheduled for sometime in June for one, but then, of course, there'll be more as we continue. There's basically a pretty full schedule between now and the fall, September, October. The only July, likely there'll be, you know, it'll shut down in July, but it'll pick back up again. And everybody was committed to whatever meetings, you know, and there was 25 people probably in the room. It was great. It's a good story.
I know previous, I spoke with some people that had said they were interested. I would be curious to get, like, for sure on which spots are open, because I will poke some people to see. So if
Yeah.
you guys come just let us know, so we can maybe outreach to some folks that have spoken to us previous or
Can
something.
do that, yep.
Yeah, and then, so I'm gonna be involved in the facilities committee, similar to what Rachel talked about in the beginning, kind of let new, members join and kind of, let them kind of drive the communications. So I'll probably checking in as my schedule allows. But again, the comments still stand, from what I provided in the last meeting, is that, you know, we do, you know, while we want to have those new members, you know, get involved and kind of drive the conversation, there is at some point going to be, you know, expectation, maybe it's through those work studies that we do, that we're going to need to provide at least a little bit of guidance and direction about what your guys' expectations are for facilities. Moving forward, there's going to be a significant capital need, even if we're just looking at maintenance in the future to maintain our facilities. And obviously, the capital funds through the current levy will be decreasing, so what we need to build those at some point. So just, I think it's important that we continue to
there a way, I know you said the minutes we posted, I guess, I'm just curious if, I don't know what's standard, but for like a facilities committee like that to meet, could we have like routine, some kind of update, or maybe a minutes review, you know, as they meet, or I don't know how, if we could facilitate something, or at least just continue to note when they meet, or how does that work, I guess,
Typically, so Bassetti does this for many school districts across the state. So typically what happens is, they look at the need, right? There's multiple things they're looking at. One, are the buildings safe, standing? Are the roofs leaking? Is the air breathable? And then, are they conducive to this century's learning? Are there flexible learning spaces? We heard, like, Kingston High School today even has outdoor spaces. They use their pods as flexible learning spaces to have multiple groups. So those are things that they're looking at. So, what they do and what has happened in even our closest surrounding districts and what other, companies like them do, is they do take the feedback from the people who are in the buildings, our facilities, group, our SEIU group who's in our facilities and seeing it every day from the infrastructure side. And so what's happening is the parameters get really set by you. The recommendation, we will go through all this. Facilities committee will make that recommendation and come back to you. The next available time, August would be too soon to run any measure. Measure could be run in November. And so what would happen is they come back and present to you and say, this is what we're thinking, this is what we feel has to happen. And then that's when you would start having that decision discussion. The work group, what they're gonna have when they bring to a work session with you is what was most important for the staff in our school district, what was most important for the community in our school district, and what is most important from our facilities maintenance crew, saying what has to happen to make our facilities usable. And they're gonna bring that information to you in the work group, and then you can help set the parameters for the rest of the work that Mike and the facilities committee are gonna do.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure we're plugging continually and reminding that they are meeting and
Yeah.
more, I mean,
Yeah.
this is important as all
Yeah,
of that,
absolutely.
that we get that, but I also wanna make sure, you know, there is awareness that, hey, these minutes are available, and
Yeah.
this is kind of the rough summary, but, just kind of what you provided, I think was pretty great and helpful for us to kind of hear that ongoing work, even if, outside of committee meeting, members. So thank you so much for that update, and I just look forward to kind of hearing what the ongoing looks like, I guess.
The community
However
feedback.
that's done,
Yeah,
I
I think
don't
the community, once the timeline is set and established, I think that community feedback, both for them being available for our staff to give feedback, but then our community to give feedback within the buildings, but then the larger, Bev, you call them town hall, then the larger town hall group, meeting also will be very important.
Just lots of good reminders.
Yeah, and then I'll make sure if, following a meeting, if there's not an update like this on the
Yeah.
agenda, I'll make sure that, through you guys, that it is.
Yeah, something like that would just, I think, be great to keep it in our forefront, too.
Yep.
It's important work, and I appreciate the members coming forward, so.
The good thing is, I think Michael Rich has done a great job of organizing the committee, and there's a set schedule and
Yeah.
set agenda to move forward that, so
Be
I'm
helpful.
very confident that it's gonna continue to move forward on a regular basis.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
On management reports.
That's our last.
You don't wanna call Mike up for anything else?
I know. It's nice, I mean, John Mueller was absent for the Animatage table, so I got to speak.
All right, so the next agenda item is, public comments, the, comments that I made for, earlier stand. We have, let's see, one public speaker, who's gonna be on Zoom, and that is, Stacy Smith.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? And if you're
Yes.
responding, thank you. I'm ready. I wrote to all of you with a request for your individual response on your completion of your required training. Have you completed your open public meetings and public records training, Mike, Brianne, Beth, Rachel? Thank you, Director Mills, for your sole response. I appreciate the time you took to respond and complete your training. Thank you. Why was there no discussion or plan for the appointment of Rick's Director District 1 position this evening? What's your timeline? Why was there nothing more said about that? Thank you, Rick, for your service, and we accepted the resignation. I do not see the agreement with Chancellor or the OASD. Was the agreement only approved by North Kitsap School District staff? I do not recall seeing it at a board meeting. Can you please point the public to where the board approved the facility use agreement? Or did you put the cart before the horse when you sent out your announcement on April 18th? Will your agreement or does your agreement address who will be responsible for the liability insurance? Could you please share with me if the North Kitsap School District would be responsible if the school had a fire caused by a student or chance light staff? If capital assets, walls, windows, flooring, lights, ceilings, or etc., were damaged, who is responsible for repairs or replacement? Is there a federal, state, or county emergency? Like for a major earthquake, for an example, is the building equipped with supplies and access to services? Is Braddock Elementary School connected to the Kitsap Public Utility District, state, or federal emergency services? I've asked this previously and still have yet to hear from the district a response. If the bridge is closed, is there a plan to get students home on the east side districts? I believe you see yourself strictly as, quote, landlords, but these are the concerns I feel that are important. You carry a motto, all in for all students. That motto does not exclude students or define only North Kitsap students. When you ran the bond in February for North Kitsap School District, you said you would need additional space for the growth in the Vinland area. Since Braddock Elementary School is closer to Vinland than Pearson is to Slippery Pig, an acceptable distance to you, will you ensure that the North Kitsap School District is prioritized when you write a lease agreement so that if they need that space, they can get access to it? How much money are you receiving from the lease? Enough to cover in revenue the $700,000 for a new roof? How much of the new roof estimate is coming out of the 22 capital levy? And how much from the lease agreement? That was in the agreement. I heard Mr. Merlino tonight, but I have more questions. Will the students attending Chancellite remain registered in their catchment districts, or they will become students of OASD or North Kitsap? Will any North Kitsap students attend the program? What other capital improvements will be necessary to provide for Chancellite to take occupancy besides the roof? Who will be providing the capital resources for physical education, seating, desks, tables, screens, projectors, computers? You get the idea. Maybe paper towels, toilet paper, waste recycle bins. I'm very concerned we will have the capital cost outlay that will not be sustainable and will cause a deficit to North Kitsap School District. Like you, I want to support all students. I just have many questions and concerns that I have not heard you address at a school board meeting. And I appreciate your questions tonight,
Thank you,
Mr.
Stacy. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you for your comments. The next item on the agenda, that's our final public speaker for the evening. The next item is executive session. The board will hold an executive session to discuss an NKSD employee and is expected to last approximately 20 minutes. Thank you. Okay, the time is, 7:23 PM, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.